In 1984, the world waited with bated breath for the second feature from the acclaimed director of the box office smash Piranha 2: The Spawning. No, not really. The idea for the Terminator came to James Cameron in a fever dream, or possibly from watching several episodes of The Twilight Zone written by Harlan Ellison. The world will never know. The reality is that this dark, apocalyptic tale of a woman hunted by a cyborg from the future created Cameron's career and vaulted Arnold Schwarzenegger to the juggernaut he became until he starred in The Last Action Hero. With low budget but powerful effects, heart-pounding action, and grisly violence, The Terminator changed the game. And it isn't even in Cameron's top 3 earning films. There isn't much in the way of drinking in this fast-paced action movie, but we found a cocktail called the Arnold Schwarzenegger in some random corner of the internet. So mix up some Applejack, rum, and Rose's lime juice, sit back and listen to episode 75 of Toasting the Classics, The Terminator. Welcome to Toasting the Classics, the podcast where we take something that people call a classic and we drink something that's inspired by it while deciding whether it's still a classic. This week, my name's Dave McArthur.
Yeah, my name is Clint Lanier.
And that's true all the time. I was going to say something else, but this week we are doing a film, and I chose the original Terminator film, which one of my biggest surprises about this movie is I realized in watching it again, I haven't seen it since the first time I saw it on tape in like 1988. I've seen Terminator 2 100 times. It was one of my favorite movies when I was in high school. And
it's because it came out in high school.
Terminator 2 and stuff like that. I mean, I was really into it at the time. So I hadn't seen this in a long time, and it really was a lot going on that I didn't remember at all. So, so that's what we're doing. What did you think? What's your personal history with Terminator?
Well, let's see. It came out in 1984.
Right.
1984. I was 10 years old, so I didn't see it at the theater. Okay. I didn't see the theatrical release. But remember that, you and I grew up in an age, well, I certainly grew up in an age when they actually showed edited, censored movies like blockbusters on TV.
Like on network TV.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I saw Rambo when I was 6 years old.
I saw Rambo at somebody else's.
I should say First Blood, rather, which is the original name of the movie.
Yeah, that one would be on TV, but the second one I saw at a friend's house on HBO, and it was a big moment that I got to actually see it.
But eventually they all filtered down to network, and what they did is they would start the movie, and they would have these before the roll credits, even the title sequence, they would have this message that says this movie has been edited for whatever reason, for language and violence or nudity.
Flip
or
you, Melon.
Like yeah. Right. Well, there's always this one in it was Police Academy. And it was nobody effed. The original line was nobody effed with me.
Right.
And then he says nobody plays with me. But the word play was said by this guy with like this deep voice. So he's like, hey man, nobody plays with me.
Yeah.
So it was so obviously terrible.
I think they did that stuff on purpose so that you would know what the original word was. It's pretty. That stuff. Anyway, so that was sort of subversive on their part.
I want to say I saw this in maybe like 88, something like that, which would have made me
about
a freshman, something like that.
I saw it. I used to catch these Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. They would be on cable. And my dad was like, whatever, you can watch them, So I saw Predator and I saw Terminator and I saw them all like a couple years after they were in the theater on cable and just loved them. I mean, I remember when Total Recall came out in the theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My dad and I were like, we're going to see that like opening night. And I think I was 12, maybe 13, but like, junior high school age. And we had a big plan to go see it. And then my stepmom stepped in and she was like, can't go because your sister's going to be with you. And she's too little to see that movie. And I got ready to argue with her. Mm-hmm. And my dad just puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, you can't win, but there are alternatives to fighting.
Nice.
He quotes Obi-Wan Kenobi and he's just like, just wait till they go to sleep and we'll sneak out and go see it at midnight. And I was like, oh my God, you're brilliant. Like,
your dad's a smart man. Yeah.
A good,
makes me wish I had a dad. Yeah.
Makes you wish you had an irresponsible dad.
Yeah, that would have been great. Versus a deadbeat. But anyway.
Yes. Right.
Right. So this came out, 84. I was too young to watch it. But I remember, the zeitgeist of this movie. It was huge. I mean, the opening was huge. I think 84, I want to say 84 was also, it was right around that, like 85, I think was like Ghostbusters. You had like Ghostbusters, Goonies,
No, Ghostbusters is also
Um,
84.
Back to
Same
the
time.
okay, you're right. And so Back to the Future, so you had all these within
Top
like
Gun. Oh no, Top
Top
Gun's a
Gun.
couple years later.
That's
Yeah, I think
88, I
that's
think. Yeah.
86 or
But
something.
so like that's sort of what I was watching. And then this one came out. So this was kind of above my age anyway. But I remember the buzz around it. Like everybody was talking about it. They're talking about the movies or on the news and stuff. And I remember them talking about how bad it was. Like not bad as in like critically, bad as in violence. This was like the ultra
Oh,
violence type of thing, right? And that was sort of the conversation that was going on, like gun violence. This is like gun porno, like violence porno type of stuff, right? For the time,
yeah.
they've never seen ultra violence, which is a terrible movie, but that's all it is, right?
I remember Rambo was the big one. What everybody was talking about. Oh, if the movies are just over the Rambo, and by that I
Yeah,
mean like Rambo, the second one, First Blood
yeah,
Part
yeah,
Two.
yeah. Mhm.
That was like, oh, it's just over the top. And this one's pretty violent.
It really is.
If
Yeah,
you remember to put it in context, it doesn't seem that violent now. But I mean, there's a couple
right.
of scenes early on in the movie where like women get killed, like innocent
Yeah,
women just get like shot in the face. I guess that's kind of that kind of thing was happening in Charles Bronson and Clint Eastwood movies, which are
well,
pretty darn violent. I'm
yeah,
talking about Dirty Harry. I think things like that
sure,
happen.
sure,
There's women getting shot in that.
sure.
I
This
never
was
actually
essentially,
saw Death Wish, but I was aware of it.
yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, yeah, me too. But when I was reading up about this, doing all the research that I do for our podcast, a good
Right,
like
right.
2 or 3 weeks worth of reading and so forth. I read that, and it never really occurred to me. This is essentially a slasher flick, a sci-fi
Hmm.
slasher flick with guns.
Yeah,
That's sort of
yeah,
what it is. Like
absolutely.
he jump scares. Terminator jump scares people, and jumps out and shoots them in the face. Who are the main victims of slasher movies? They're always women. I mean, they're
Right,
primarily women, right? And
right.
so, like well, he kills a bunch of people in this, but like, shooting a woman in the head is horrific. I don't mean to laugh when I say that. I'm sorry. Let's cut that and retake it. Shooting a woman in the head is horrific. But that's it's just like a slasher film, but he's doing it with a big silver gun instead in a,
It
in a,
is.
in
No,
a
I think this
laser.
movie, the tone of the film is like a slasher movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's even got like the final girl,
Hmm.
the trope of the
Yeah.
final girl.
Yeah.
Like she ends
Exactly.
up at the end being one
Right.
on one against the Terminator
The
and
heroine.
somehow
Yeah.
manages to survive. It's very like that. He's like an unstoppable force, the way
Yep.
Jason
Jason and
or Michael
um,
Myers.
or Freddy
In a
Krueger.
way, Freddy's like that. Freddy,
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw that one recently, and he's kind of a pushover towards the end, but the whole magical dream thing is pretty
Mhm.
unstoppable, sort of like
Yeah.
the Terminator. So I guess
Hmm.
it's actually pretty similar in a lot of ways. This is like if the Terminator was one of those slasher horror figures. I think it's very
Right.
much like a horror movie. I think they
Yeah.
turned into action movies later on. I
Hmm.
think is it the T100 or the T1000? I was having trouble remembering what.
T1000.
It's the
T1000.
T1000, right? That's the
Yeah,
Robert Patrick. Yeah.
because this one's
That
a
one,
T8. This one's a T800.
T800?
Yeah, T800 is what
Oh, okay. I
Schwarzenegger
actually
is.
couldn't remember what the model
Yeah,
number was on this one, but yeah, okay. That one's scary, and there's some
yeah,
gross stuff that happens, but the tone of the film is action film.
right,
It's just a fight between him and the
right.
Terminator, and then the ending is completely different, and it's not the kind of downer.
Yeah.
It totally turns that on its head in the second film, but
Little known
um,
trivia: T800. The other name for T800 was actually Chat GPT. Yeah, a lot of people don't know
here we are. The themes of this
that.
movie,
Right
which seemed kind of hokey maybe
at the
10 years
time.
ago, which are
Yeah,
nuclear war and conquest by AI. And it's like we
hmm,
have both of those things now.
yeah,
Both of those
yeah,
problems are
absolutely.
very much problems
Yes,
in
yes, they are.
2023. So
Right.
it's back, and this one seemed also like timely in a weird sort of way.
Yes, right, right. Well, they all are. This, and this, there's a direct line from this to like the Matrix trilogy, and
Direct line from this. So there was a blurb I read that was talking about, how when the Terminator chases Sarah Connor. Wait, we should do a synopsis, but anyway, I'll finish this thought.
okay,
When the Terminator follows her to that club called Tech Noir,
tech noir, right,
that's James Cameron's idea for what the genre of this film is.
right,
It's tech noir. And it
right.
actually ends up being some people. I've never really heard that term a lot, but it makes sense. There was a list of films that went under that genre, and The Matrix is
Mhm.
one of them. I think
Mhm.
The Matrix is cyberpunk, really, but cyberpunk is also
Well,
kind of tech noir if you think about like Blade Runner. And
yeah,
that's tech noir. That's what that is. That's a
yeah.
future with lots of technology around, but essentially
Dystopian.
otherwise
It's
it's like
dystopian. It's a dystopian
dystopian
future type of
version
thing.
of
Yeah,
Philip
yeah,
Marlowe, right?
Right.
Like walking around and solving
Yeah.
crimes, and very
Yeah.
much so. And this is similar. Everybody's wearing a trench coat. I think that's
Yeah.
a staple
Well,
of
most of it takes place at night
most
too,
of it
and
takes
so it's like
place at night,
it's
right?
dark, so it's yeah, the tech noir kind of genre. I think was Blade Runner. Did play Blade Runner predate this?
Yeah,
Can't
that was
remember. Yeah.
82, I think. So that's a
Um,
little bit before this. So they didn't use that term to refer to it, but it
okay.
fits
Well,
perfectly.
why don't you do a synopsis while I take a drink?
Okay. Oh, speaking of drink, we got a drink. Let's talk about the drink
Yeah,
first before the synopsis, because the drink is supposed to be half of the
definitely.
show. It's definitely
That's right.
receded down to 5%. I was racking my brains trying to come up with anything. I don't think there's a single alcoholic beverage mentioned in this that I could come up with. Maybe
Yeah.
I think they go out and they're talking about drinking a little bit. Nothing was part of the movie in any big way. I tried to think of some things. I couldn't come up with anything. So I just started looking around. There was a drink called a something Cameron, which is like a mixture of Irish whiskey and Scotch whiskey. And I was thinking, that just seems like a waste of good whiskey to mix those together and make some kind of a cocktail. So I didn't think that was a great idea, but I came up with something called the Arnold Schwarzenegger. And there's no explanation whatsoever for why this is called an Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I don't get it at all, but okay.
I don't get it even a little bit. I did find some information online about how Arnold Schwarzenegger apparently drinks his protein drinks now by putting tequila into his protein.
And I had flirted with that, but I was like, I really don't feel like a protein shake.
We could have gotten a little bit healthy and had some protein drink, I guess, while doing this. But I don't know.
It just sounds terrible.
It sounds foul. So I decided not to do that. So anyway, this cocktail, the Arnold Schwarzenegger, is 1 1/4 ounce dark rum, 3/4 ounce. They say Calvados, but I just went with apple brandy, and I think you said you did the same.
Right.
Calvados apparently is hard to find.
Yeah.
And then this says 2 ounces Rose's lime juice. I just used the lime juice that we had at home.
Well, was it sweetened? Because it was sweetened lime juice.
Is Rose's supposed to be sweetened?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then my cocktail is going to taste very different than what it's intended to. This is just lime juice. I don't see any indication that there's any sweetening.
Yeah, Rose's is a sweetened lime juice.
Okay, I thought so. I saw that at the very end, and I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is probably going to be pretty gross."
Yeah, if you have I
guess I can put some simple sugar in there.
Make a margarita. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. Because I didn't have any, so I just mix. If you just mix simple syrup with lime juice, otherwise it's going to be alcohol and sour alcohol.
Honestly, it's not bad, but it would be made better by a sweetness. If I had,
I don't know how much, because I've got it. Well, and the original recipe calls for it blended. I mean, the one I saw anyway.
Okay.
And I didn't feel like doing that, so I've just got it over the rocks. It tastes okay. I mean, it's not. What do you think of it?
I think it's okay. I think it tastes kind of like tastes like lime juice mixed with some whiskey. I mean, it's kind of tasty. I don't really mind it at all. I could drink.
Yeah, I get. You know what's interesting is apple brandy doesn't taste like apples at all. It smells like apples, but it tastes like alcohol.
It's been a long time since I've had apple brandy. Maybe I'll take a sniff here and see what I think.
But this with the sweetened lime juice, and I think maybe the rum, it actually does bring out the apples. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But again, I have no idea why the heck it's called Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know what the connection is. Maybe apples.
I can't think of any connection.
He's so rum is from the Caribbean. That makes no sense. He's Austrian, so apple brandy was. And Calvados is actually French, so that doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
I don't get it.
I got nothing. Okay. I have no idea why this, but it's actually not a bad cocktail. If it was sweet lime juice, this would be better. I would enjoy it more, but it's not bad. I actually kind of like the way it goes together. So I would recommend trying this one out. And we've talked about rum in the past. I think we talked a little bit about the lime juice, and we've talked about brandy before. But what makes something Applejack? How is it apple brandy?
There's a difference. Are you using Laird's Applejack? Is it the kind of brandy you've got? Okay, that's what I've got too, and that's the most popular kind. So brandy is just well, let's back up a little bit. So whiskey is distilled grain, right?
Right.
Rum is distilled molasses and brown sugar. Brandy is distilled fruit. Any kind of fruit.
Oh, brandy can be any kind of fruit. It's not necessarily made from wine.
Correct.
Okay,
so
that's what I was
apple, peach. We've had pear before for the.
So any of those things like Slivovitz and things that are from Europe, those are all just various kinds of brandy.
Correct. Yeah, they're fruit. All right. They're brandy. So pisco. Actually, pisco is different.
No, I think pisco is more like grappa, isn't it?
It's grappa. Yeah, it's the remnants at the bottom. But regular brandy is
crap.
regular
it's the
brandy
crap for making wine.
Yeah. Regular brandy is grape. I mean, a typical what you just call brandy. But so that's the brandy classification. So, but Calvados is like it's apple brandy with a degree or a pedigree, I should say. 200-year-old strains of apples and blah blah blah. Terroir is a big part of it. So I'm using Laird's Applejack, I think, which is made in New Jersey. You're using that too. I think that's one of the biggest.
They said something to me about George Washington. Is that not? You're right. It is from New Jersey, but they said it had something to do with how George Washington made it.
There is some. I will say something interesting about Applejack though. So this is called Laird's Applejack. And then they say apple brandy. Apple brandy is different than Applejack. This is kind of a cool differentiation here. So apple brandy is distilled fermented apple juice, essentially, and that's what we're drinking.
Okay.
Applejack is something that they've made in Europe and the U.S. as far back as the 1600s. The way to make Applejack is you make apple cider, so fermented apple cider, right? Which is about 8% alcohol, so not that much. It's about as much as like a good beer, strong beer. And then what they would literally do is in New Jersey especially, this is kind of where they made it, during the winter, they would put it in a bucket and they would set it outside at night. And then in the morning, they would go out and they would peel the layer of ice off the top and they would throw that away.
Okay.
And then they do it again. And so what happens
it was distilling the water out, but by freezing
it's concentrating it. Orange concentrate.
But you're getting the water out.
Exactly. Yeah.
So distilling, not by heating it through distillation.
Exactly.
It's like
yeah. So distilling, what you do is you heat the alcohol so that because alcohol is a different boiling point than water. So it's 170 or 180 versus 220. And so the alcohol
applies to freezing point as well.
Exactly. So alcohol has a lower freezing point. Water will freeze. They peel that water off the top. And what it does is instead of distilling it, it concentrates it.
Sure.
But that makes a kind of a more syrupy and very concentrated tasting, higher alcohol. And matter of fact, if you've ever had an ice beer in your life, if you're in college, you had an ice beer. That's exactly how they make ice beer. So you'll notice like an ice beer is like a 10% or an 8% alcohol. It's the same beer that they would make otherwise. It's 5%, and they take it through a quick freeze process, peel off the ice, and now they have a 10% beer.
So I should be careful with ice beers that they're probably higher alcohol content.
Yeah, a little bit higher. Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
is there a product made from distilling beer?
No, because of the hops. The hops sort of ruins it. Before you hop it, you can distill it, and then it essentially makes a schnapps or a brandy or something. Let me take that back. If you distill beer before you hop it, it's essentially whiskey because it's all grain. I mean, beer is made of grains.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, sure.
But if you hop it, the resin in the hop actually coats the still, and it ruins the taste of pretty much anything you run through that still after that.
Well, all right. Well, I guess we got some interesting drinking knowledge out of
That's our history lesson for today, folks. Okay, synopsis time.
So this is a really interesting, and there's some notes I came to that perhaps this is not as original of a script as I thought it was when I first saw the movie. When I saw this movie and I was 11 years old, I was like, wow, what a great idea for a movie, because what this is essentially, and it's hard to say when to start the synopsis because there's time travel involved.
Sure.
But we have a future world in the 2020s where AI has taken over the planet and tried to exterminate humanity. I actually thought it was just the nuclear war. I didn't realize there was this whole genocidal concentration camp thing where the AI was trying to wipe out all the people. I didn't pick up on that before. But the AI has taken over and is trying to eliminate humanity, but a savior arises from the humans in the name of John Connor and fights back to save humanity. And just before that war is finally over, the AI sends back in time a Terminator to kill John Connor's mother before he's even born. And the good guys, the humans, I mean, assuming you're rooting for the humans, I don't want to be judgmental here, but the good guys, from my perspective as a human, send back a defender to go and defend her and protect her. And obviously combat ensues between this Terminator that's trying to kill Sarah Connor. And it's really good suspense movie, like him trying to find her and the Terminator trying to find her and knocking off like the people who have the same name, which I thought was a pretty cool bit. And then confrontation between everybody, multiple different confrontations. And I think one of the best set pieces in the movie, the one that really gets across the message of the indestructibility of the Terminator, that puts the Terminator, and this is a movie that we did, puts the Terminator in the same class of the unstoppable force with Godzilla. is that she's in the police station, supposedly protected by, I think he says, like, there's 30 guys with guns here protecting you. You're fine.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
Terminator just walks in there and murders all
Yeah,
of the
kills
police to get
everybody.
to her.
Yeah,
That part just plays with your expectations of safety and stuff in such a
yeah,
great way. I've never seen anything like that in a movie. Like, Freddy Krueger doesn't just go in, and although he does kill somebody in the jailhouse,
yeah.
so there's a little bit of you're not even safe in the jail there too. So they kind of play with that, I suppose.
Well, he's much more sneaky. You know, they're all much more sneaky, and Terminator just goes in like a battering ram and
Right.
just anybody in front of me, I'm going to kill them all. For me, it's sort of the final scene where he's half of exo or endoskeleton, and he's
Yeah.
still
Right.
pulling himself along, trying to
Right.
kill her. You know, he just doesn't stop. I think in the second movie she says he's relentless. He doesn't stop. It just keeps coming in.
So yeah, in the end, they manage to stop the Terminator, but he gets killed defending her from the Terminator. He blows it in half, but it still comes after her, and she has to crush it beneath like a metal pressing machine. In the same way the Fly gets killed, by the way. I was thinking of that. I was like, James Cameron saw The Fly. She ends up going off to raise her child, who ends up being fathered by Reese. She goes off to lead this resistance against the machines and just treats the oncoming apocalypse as inevitable, which is a really dark and awesome way to end the film. I remember watching the end of that movie, the bit where she's, the little boy's like, the storm is coming, and she's like, yeah, that's I love that ending. That was great. Like I was like, man, that didn't end happy at all. That was awesome.
No. And the
which
part
they flipped in two.
in two.
And it kind of fit the time period. 1991 was a very optimistic time, right?
Yeah.
The Cold War was over and everything was going to be fine. And so they flipped that on its end. And have you ever seen Terminator 3?
No.
I had never seen it. I actually was inspired to go and watch it because of watching this film again.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't suck the way, like, I've sort of been led to think it sucked really badly. And there are some bits in it where you're like, this is pretty bad. It's not as good as Terminator 2. But the ending, and I won't spoil it for you, but the ending is pretty damn good. It's like a flips the second one on its head and just does something completely different. I'd recommend watching it just for that bit.
Okay.
Anyway, so I did finally watch that movie, which I don't know why I didn't see it. I love Terminator 2. I don't know why I didn't end up seeing. I think I was really busy in the summer of 2003, and I just didn't get around to it. But
I can see that. So the only thing that kind of throws a wrench in the whole slasher film genre is this part about the future, that there's this impending doom that's coming. So it's a slasher film within the context of, so there are elements of like Blade Runner, that it's kind of like what makes humans human type of thing.
But even Blade Runner, the film, the setting is nowhere near as dark as what they're talking about in this movie.
Right. No, gosh,
like
yeah.
Post-nuclear, total apocalypse all over the earth in terms of nuclear war. That's one of the dark. That's actually more like what the novel that Blade Runner is based on is in a very dark future. There's no living creatures,
and it's also
very different. But
it's also what the Earth looks like during the Matrix. The Matrix, he talks about that.
Yeah,
they scorched the sky to try to block out because the AI was trying to use solar as the power, so they blocked out the sun.
See, we should do the Matrix at some point, but I always thought the concept of the Matrix is stupid. Like the idea of blotting out the sun and then using human brains generate less wattage than a light bulb. Like that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. They're like using a form of fusion. They're like using a form of fusion. I'm like, let me stop you there. If you've got,
I don't think it was human brains. I think it was a human body.
No, they're feeding. The story in the movie is that they're feeding these humans that are in these tubes,
right?
And they're using the activity from their brains to power their civilization in combination with a form of fusion. And I'm like, let me stop you right there. If you've got the ability to get power from fusion, you're good. You don't need any human brains. Like fusion can generate electricity on scales, dwarfing what a human brain can.
Yeah, but then you can
run a light bulb.
You wouldn't have a movie then, like I said.
James Cameron versus whom?
Ridley Scott is what I was going to say. But
okay, yeah.
So the movie he made before this was Piranha 2. This was following in the heels of Piranha 2. So he was a nobody. I mean, he made a B budget kind of like, I guess it'd be a horror film, Piranha 2 or something like that.
I saw the original Piranha movie, by the way, when I was about 6. I was really excited to watch it. It was on network TV. And it was, even when I was 6, I was like, I'm super into piranhas, but this is lame. Like, this is not a good movie. I can't even imagine how bad Piranha 2 was. But anyway,
Right. So, well, maybe he made it better. And that's the thing is we don't know how
maybe
bad it would have been had he not directed
that's
it.
right.
But
That's right. We don't know what his war was in coming in and directing that. So yeah, that's true.
so apparently he was in Rome making that movie.
Right.
It was so good it had to be shot in Rome.
Can I ask for a pause? I think I know where you're going with this story, and it's a good one. And I just wanted to say this thought: Ridley Scott versus James Cameron.
Mhm.
We know what that's like. We know what that's like because Alien is Ridley Scott
exactly.
and Aliens is James Cameron.
Right.
And they're both awesome in their own way.
Well, here's the interesting thing, though. So, Alien is sort of described as it's like a space ghost story because it has all the elements of what a ghost story is, outer space. Okay. Aliens is an action movie.
It's a war movie. Yeah, it's like a Vietnam in space kind of thing.
Terminator is closer to Alien.
Yes.
And T2 is closer to Aliens.
That's right.
So it's all about that. Just
we talked about this in the Godzilla podcast, and I wish I could credit this to somebody, but I read once there's a spectrum in horror movies about how much control the characters have in fighting back against the menace. And Alien is like very high on the spectrum of like, you're screwed. Like this is a terrible, terrible monster. Godzilla is the same way. Mm-hmm. Terminator, the original one, is the same way. And Terminator 2, the characters have a ton of agency.
Yes.
It's even the byline of the film is the future is not set. There's no fate but what we make for ourselves. So it's all about that spectrum of how much control the characters have, which, there was in the 90s, it was an optimistic time and all the movies were, people had a lot of control when they fought back, like in Tremors. They're fighting the monsters and they could figure out schemes to defeat. It was a dangerous threat, but you could figure out how to fight it.
True.
And then in the 80s, everybody was like locked into Cold War stalemate. And so of course all the films are the monster's just going to kill you. There's nothing you can do. There's almost nothing you can do to fight this monster.
It's an interesting point. And it's really especially interesting when you point at these things, these two directors, one directed a sequel of the other, but they both sort of have the same approach to their first movies.
Also, one is British and one is American. And there's definitely a level of pessimism
I think James
optimism
Cameron's he's like the most British American director there is. I mean, he could fit in with the intellectual elites of England, pretty easily.
Sorry, I cut you off. You were telling the story of Piranha 2 and I think the genesis of Terminator.
No, just that he I guess he had the flu or something, and I guess he had they call it a fever dream, but literally he was having like night sweats and fevers and stuff, really, really sick. And he had this nightmare of being chased by this robot. And the scene of his dream is the final scene in this movie where it's the half of the torso pulling itself along, trying to kill Sarah.
Easily the scariest part of the movie. When I was a little kid and I saw this movie and that robot gets out of that flaming truck wreck, it's terrible special effects, right? Like you look at that stop motion robot and it's like, this is awful.
Yeah.
But that is a scary scene, and that is a scary design for the creature and stuff. Yeah. And it's the first time you really see it. I think you glimpse it a little bit in some of the future flash forwards that happen early in the movie. But when that reveal, I remember that. I was like, whoa, man, that's that's probably reveal. 11 or 12. I was too old to be really, really scared of just like a monster, but I was like, this is a scary monster. Like, I don't really want to.
That's the real reveal too. That's like taking the sheet off the ghost and seeing what's underneath, and so you finally see it. It's like turning the lights on and you finally see the monster. Oh man, that's deceptive. I hadn't even thought of that. Spielberg is famous for not showing the monster until the last third of the movie or the last quarter of the movie, like whether it's Jaws or Jurassic Park.
And that's sort of what's happening here, right?
That's sort of what happens here. You see
Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Yeah,
but he's just a dude. He's like a big muscular dude. You don't see the machine until the very end.
So speaking of the big muscular dude, there were some things and it carries through the rest of the films that didn't make a lot of sense, because one of the ways they introduced the concept of the Terminator is Reese explains that the Terminators were supposed to be infiltration units, right? They're supposed to just look like humans and sneak in, and that's why they keep dogs around, because only the dog could tell the difference between a Terminator and a regular person. And it sort of works, but if you're thinking about it, why would your infiltrator unit looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's your choice. That's the
Right.
one who's going to blend into human society. Is
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
the biggest, strongest human I've ever
Yeah.
seen in my entire life. Is gonna,
Right.
and it's because it wasn't supposed to be Arnold. It was supposed to be somebody like Bruce. No, I'm sorry, Bruce Willis was to play Reese. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be
Mel Gibson.
Lance Henriksen,
Yeah. Well,
or Mel Gibson, right?
or
Like,
Mel Gibson. Yeah. Just
yeah,
a
yeah.
regular dude.
So I wouldn't call Mel Gibson a regular dude, but I don't know if handsomeness is what would make you stand out like an
Right.
infiltration.
Well,
He's
at the
not. He's not
time,
like a beast. He's not like a
he wasn't
weightlifter. You know.
right. Yeah. He was, that would have been pre-Lethal Weapon, I think. Maybe not. That might have been close to the same time.
Oh yeah,
as
well
Lethal
yeah,
Weapon.
but after Mad Max
Yeah,
is really
after Mad
like
Max, sure.
you know. But yes, it's I think Lethal Weapon,
Um,
if I'm remembering right, might be 86.
Okay. Well,
But I
maybe this
might
is
be,
around.
I don't know. That would be a
Might
good
be
movie to
around
do. I haven't thought about
Road
that movie in a long time.
Road Warrior. Maybe it's like 82, 83 then.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, Road Warrior's
something like
about
that.
82 because Mad Max was really like an Australian film,
Uh-huh.
and then Road Warrior was really like a wide release, like everybody
Yeah.
around the world saw it. Anyway,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you have to think of a future, dystopian future where humans are hunted. We're all going to be skinny and malnourished.
yeah, exactly. Everybody's missing their teeth,
And this guy
they're
comes in and you're like,
5'4", and
he has never missed a meal in his life. In fact, he's eating 7,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
You know, what's going on here?
This guy drinks protein shakes with tequila.
With tequila, you know?
Like,
so, I mean,
this guy hasn't been living in a bunker his whole life.
Yeah, obviously something's going on, you know?
Yes.
So,
yeah, that would be a dead I wouldn't need the dog, by the way. I don't need the dog
right.
barking to tell
Yeah.
Arnold doesn't fit in with my, Morlock clan that's been hiding.
Although one of his buddies played one of the Terminators when they talk about that part.
Yeah.
They come
but that guy wouldn't fit in either. That guy was huge too. The second
I know,
he walks the door, you're like,
but
dude,
he's short.
I think that's a
But
Terminator.
he's short.
Look at that guy.
Yeah, I know, but he's not 6 foot something. He's like that dude Columbo or whatever his name was, Columbo.
I have no idea, but I remember thinking, like, the first time I saw the movie, I remember thinking like, oh, okay, so they're all just different bodybuilders. All the Terminators are just various bodybuilders walking around the hellscape in the future. And,
hey, there's Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah, it'd be like you'd go to your little army that's trying to resist Skynet, and you'd be like, okay, nobody lift weights. That way we can tell the difference between us.
Okay.
Are you skinny?
Slim,
are you living off rats? Like
slim, tiny. you guys over here, you're making me wonder about that.
Hey, you're sus. You're sus.
Now I loved all the cameos. So Bill Paxton cameo, and
it's not a cameo. He's a nobody at the time, but yeah,
he's a nobody at the time. I know, but now we look at it as a cameo. But so essentially, he plays the same character,
Punk number 3, basically.
Yeah, so he's Punk number 3, but it's the same character as the Big Brother in Weird Science. You're stupid. He's got the same voice, the same.
This is not meant as a dare to choose that movie for Toasting the Classics, but I've never seen Weird Science.
All right, too late, Dad. Chosen. Too late. Chosen.
Well, all right, fine.
But in the future, when you've forgotten this, give you a couple of drinks.
Yeah.
But it's Bill Paxton, and then the other guy, the guy who gets fisted, we should say.
Mm-hmm.
He
gets Temple of Doomed is what he gets. Oh no, Bill Paxton gets Temple of Doomed, right?
No, Bill Paxton gets
his heart ripped out.
Smack. No, the other guy, the guy that does get his heart ripped out, he was in a ton of movies too. I think he was in like Werewolf or something like that. Hold on, give me just a second here.
I think I know who you're talking about because I saw him in something recently. He was in one of the Rocky movies, maybe.
Brian Thompson is the guy's name, and he was in just a ton of 80s movies.
Yeah, I saw him in something not long ago, and I was thinking, oh, that guy. I remember that guy. He used to be in things as the jerk. He was always the jerk and everything. Like,
yeah, exactly. Oh, no, you know what? He might have been in Animal House, now that I think of it. He might have been the jerk in Animal House. Do you remember Brian Thompson? He was in Cobra. He was a bad guy in Cobra. He was a night flasher in Cobra.
Yeah.
The boyfriend of Sarah Connor's roommate. Okay, can you see him?
That's Slider from Top Gun. I recognize
Slider, you got that one. Very good.
Yeah. I recognize him. Yeah.
You stink.
Slider,
it was just chock full of guys from the 80s. It was great. Just watching that part, I was like, oh, I know that guy. Oh, I know that guy. And what's funny is like you watch it at the time, they're just nobodies. Just bit actors trying to do something. Although I don't think Slider ever did anything, but whatever.
No, he wasn't like a big actor or anything, but he's definitely in other things. Anyway, so let's get back to talking about the movie, I guess, huh?
I guess we should. One fan is getting antsy.
Well, don't worry. I'll cut the stuff where we're really just waxing. Where we're just being human IMDb and and like talking about who's in
Right.
what movie. I know that's actually one of my favorite games to play, but that's probably not
Yeah,
super
me too.
entertaining.
All right, so I'm gonna go over some accolades real quick. All right,
Okay.
so made
Okay.
on a $6.5 million budget,
Right.
which at the time, like now, that's nothing. At the time, maybe $20 million, something like that. That's what it'd be worth,
No.
maybe
I
in
got
today's dollars.
$6.4 million. Oh, you're
Yeah,
saying what
six
it would
foot.
be worth
Yeah,
today?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
right. Yeah, today. So
A
we're
lot
looking
more
at
than that. Yeah.
maybe about a $20 million budget today. It grossed 78 million. So let's say today, 125, $140 million today. So solid, very solid there. In 2008, the Terminator was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the
Yeah.
National Film Registry. What? Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, we haven't gotten to the part where we talk about whether it's a classic, but that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, this is an important movie. This is this movie made James Cameron and it made Arnold
no, it
Schwarzenegger.
really did. You know who
But
else it made?
no.
Uh,
Well,
it made
Linda Hamilton.
Michael Bain,
Is
who
it
is one of
Bane?
Bain.
What
It's spelled
didn't you tell me you know him or
BIEAT.
you met him
I
or
know I
something?
met him. I met him.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a great story. I took the family to we went to Phoenix for a concert, and then we came down, stayed in like Tucson for the night, just hanging out. And then I was like, I want to take the kids to Tombstone because Tombstone, Arizona, is a cool little town. It's not
Oh
a
yeah,
ghost
he's
town.
Johnny
There's stuff
Ringo,
going
right?
on there. Johnny Ringo in the movie.
Yeah.
And so we go
I
down there,
know.
and they happen to be doing this like big. It was Memorial Day weekend, and they do a thing called El Dorado Days, where they reenact like all the stuff, and everybody's dressed up like a cowboy, and they're all carrying guns because it's Arizona, and it's just chaos and crazy and
Right.
fun. And so we're walking down the wooden sidewalk that they have in Tombstone, and I see this sign that says Michael Bain autographs today in this like outfitter store or something. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, like
I
we're
turned to my
doing
wife, I'm
that.
like, Michael
Yeah.
Bain is here. And she's like, who the heck is Michael Bain?
Oh
I'm
no.
like, every action movie in the 80s
Yeah.
and mostly in the 90s, he was in it. And so we walk in, nicest dude in the world, and he is as good looking as he is on film, and he's like 6'2", and I mean but he's so genuine and so cool and so nice. We
Right.
talked for God, we must have talked for like 15, 20 minutes. And I mean, just shooting the breeze. He was like, where are you guys from? And we said, I said, from New Mexico. First thing he asked is like, oh, really? How much are houses in New Mexico? And I'm like, well, they're not that
Okay.
much. He's like, maybe I'll look at New Mexico, you know? And,
That's not a
but
bad
I
place to
mean,
live.
just a super, super nice guy. And yeah, so, but, he had all his pictures and for the price of being able to talk to him, which I paid.
Right.
I got an
Yeah, sure. Why the
autographed
hell not?
picture. He was like, what picture do you want? And that was the hardest choice to make because he had Johnny Ringo. I had Reese from Terminator. I had
Yeah, but also
uh,
either Hicks or Hudson. I can never remember which one he is, but
Hicks.
I think he's Hicks. Yeah, I was gonna
Hicks
say I think
in,
he's
in
Hicks.
Aliens was there,
Sure.
but he was also in The Rock. He was also
He was
in
on the Mandalorian,
Navy
by the way.
SEALs in The Mandalorian. They had that one as well. What was the other James Cameron movie? What was the one? Oh, The Abyss.
Yeah,
He
that's right.
goes crazy
That's
in
right.
that one.
Yep. Yep.
Cameron really likes him because he's been on, I think, 3 or 4 of the Cameron show movies.
You say he's like 6'2", and he's like a
Mhm.
movie star type of guy, right? And you got to have Arnold because it
Mhm.
puts into contrast. It makes Michael Biehn look like this tiny little guy, right? Like Michael
I
Biehn's
know.
a little
That's the
bit
thing.
bigger than
Yeah.
me. I'm not like a small guy. Michael Bihn's
Yeah.
probably a little bigger than me, it sounds like. And yet
Yeah.
he comes across as looking like this little shrimp going back
Yeah.
in
Next to
time
Arnold.
to
Well,
face the Terminator with
Arnold's like six
household chemical.
four. Yeah, Arnold's 6'4" and got these
Arnold's
shoulders that
6'4", but he's also like, if you just look at his
just a
legs
giant,
and you're
right?
like, how
Yeah.
does a person look
Well,
like that? So
his shoulders he can't fit through a doorway unless he goes
right,
sideways, right? But
right,
Michael Bain he's a big and when I say he's
right.
like 6'1" or 6'2", he's a big 6'1" or 6'2". Like he could have played like tight end or something. He's a big dude.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
next to Arnold,
But next to Arnold, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's such good casting because that's what you need to look like. You need to look like,
Right.
which is kind of funny if you think about it, because it inverts. If you think about it, the people that control the computers in the real world are the little shrimpy tiny guys,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But in this one, it's like the computer not only is a computer, but also it's the physically hugest person you've ever seen trying to kill you.
Right.
Like Arnold is the opposite of the guy who's sitting in front of his computer hacking into your bank account. He's the absolute opposite of that.
Arnold would pick up and throw the computer.
Exactly. So it's kind of funny that they invert that expectation there as well. It's
that's a good point.
There's a pretty good amount going on in this film, I think.
Was in love with Linda Hamilton. I gotta say, 80s and 90s. She was such a babe. She was in a show called, I think, Beauty and the Beast or something like that. It was her. I can't remember what it was.
Which was written by George Martin, by the way. Did you know that?
And I didn't know it was written by George Martin.
The Game of Thrones guy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Or I don't know. Maybe he wrote some episodes for it. I don't know if he wrote.
But it also starred what's his name from?
He was involved with that.
The main star who played the Beast guy. It was a famous actor.
That's a good question.
He played that.
I never watched that show, but it was like one of those things that was out there in the culture, and the people who liked it were people whose opinion I respected, but for some reason I never got around to watching it. I don't remember why. I can't remember. It's not Ron Perlman, is it?
Yes, it is Ron Perlman.
It is Ron Perlman.
That's who it was. Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
No, I never. You know what I just remembered that I was thinking about Arnold. I don't know. Maybe this is sort of after the fact, but I should have mentioned this before. He is made to look like Frankenstein throughout the movie, like the original Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Like they're playing with that, like the haircut and like everything about the way he's shaped and stuff. It's like Frankenstein with a gun, who's a robot. And that's the same thing. I think the same horror of Frankenstein, the original one, was the unstoppable force. Was like, and that's a movie about science run amok.
Yeah,
and
it was a book. It was a Victorian book about science run amok. I mean, at that time, in fact, when Shelby wrote that, you had like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean, you had a lot of that genre of science. Like science is going to kind of capture us or kill us or something like that. That's interesting that it kind of comes full circle here.
I think it comes full circle in a weird sort of way, yeah. And the living flesh on top of the dead metal endoskeleton, I think that's kind of a Frankenstein callback as well.
But so we have all of that. This is the crazy part.
There's all that electricity. When they travel through time, there's all that electricity sparking around them and stuff. It looks a lot like the way Frankenstein's. Anyway,
if you ever study like science fiction as a genre in literature, they are very, very like prophetic on a lot of stuff. You have like you had War of the Worlds, kind of. They had heat rays, and now we have lasers and stuff like that, and just on and on. And so now you have like the living flesh on top of the endoskeleton. We're making flesh in petri dishes. We have cartilage that I don't know if you've ever seen those latex ears that we grow on mice. Have you ever seen one of those?
No.
They're weird.
Latex? It's latex or it's like
latex or something or something. No, it's like a cartilage. It's like a synthetic cartilage. And what they do is they essentially put this on a mouse and they stretch the skin of the mouse over this fake ear. And then the mouse's skin grows and like grafts itself to the ear. And then once it's sufficiently done that, we'll cut it off and put it on a person. Okay, so that's a lot like this. That's really weird, right?
It's not happening. None of this stuff is happening by 2029. Like we only have 6 more years. There's not going to be
I don't know,
cyborgs and time machines and like
GPT chat or whatever is
the AI is almost there. I think you could almost put AI in charge of the defense network today, and it wouldn't surprise me if you got that weird response.
Although I think
because did you see the thing where the guy was interviewing the AI?
Which one?
It became self-aware in the 1990s, right?
Yeah, 1990s.
Yeah, in the original one, August something 1990. I don't remember, but yeah, it's 1997. It was 1997 because in Terminator 3, that's when Linda Hamilton's character dies because she holds out until the day where Judgment Day was supposed to happen originally, and then she has cancer and she lets herself die then because she wanted to make sure it didn't happen. But somehow it gets kicked down. It gets kicked down the road. So anyway, but by 2029, I definitely. Or sorry, is it 2029? Is that the year? Yes, 2029. 2029. I could definitely see AI being at this point. Of the three
Yes.
things you'd need, the robotics I don't think are really there.
No.
The cybernetic skin and stuff like that, that's not
Mhm.
there.
No.
The
No.
time travel, there's nothing like that. That's I don't even
Right.
know. That's a whole separate thing that apparently was
They
invented by
never, they never really
1995.
talked. They never really talked about that.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's a
Just
whole
something.
entirely
Yeah.
separate. Did you know in the original script for this film, there were two guys sent back to help Sarah Connor, and
No, I didn't.
one of them died by being fused into a chain link fence
Oh,
when he gets
jeez.
back.
I
Just
didn't know that.
dies that way.
Yes.
That's
But
what
also,
happens at
too.
the beginning of P2. The
Oh, that's right.
T1000
Oh,
comes
with
into a
the
chain
chain
link
link
fence,
fence. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they decided that the time machine creates like a sphere that annihilates
Yeah.
everything around you
Sure. Sure.
when you
Well,
come.
did
But I
you
think it must have been based on that
in the
original
original script, the
concept.
T1000 actually comes back as well
Yes, right.
in
The
the
liquid
original
metal
story.
Terminator.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
liquid metal.
Right. Yeah,
But
yeah,
Cameron knew that like special effects weren't there yet, so he cut that out of the script. And then they used it for
yeah. That's
T2, which is
wise.
pretty cool. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, that was barely there in 1991 when they did
yeah,
T2. I mean, that was
right.
really cutting edge special effects. It
Oh, it's
was
huge. Yeah,
pretty
huge.
amazing, honestly. Like it was pretty
Yeah,
amazing at the
yeah.
time. So, do you think we're at the time where we need to talk about our biggest surprise? Are we
That
up to that yet, or
it is the time. Can I go
should we
first?
continue our ground game?
No,
Yeah, sure. Go
this
ahead.
is yeah, that's the time. Let me. So my biggest surprise was that Cameron sold the rights to Terminator for $1.
Right, for $1. Yep.
For $1, and
Yep.
he says it's his biggest regret in life. And I read an article that as of 2015, the Terminator franchise was worth $1.4 billion up to that
Wow. Yeah.
point. Okay, you've got comic books,
He was
you've
quoted as
got
saying at one point
toys.
that if he could use a time machine
Uh,
and send a tweet back in time, it would be don't sell the rights to Terminator. Like,
yeah, for $1, especially. Yeah, just don't
and
sell
this
them.
is a guy who
Yeah.
honestly, what the hell? What does he care? He owns Avatar. He
Well,
owns, I mean,
right,
he's
but see,
fine. But
and at the time, so you have to put yourself in his shoes. He's 20 something years old. He
mhm,
just came after making Piranha 2: The Spawning.
right,
That
right,
was his first movie, so he finally had a chance to make a movie, but it's a B movie and it's a B horror film. And
right.
and it's like I've got this original idea, and I want to make this movie. So he sort of
He wanted
did.
to retain creative control as well, though,
Yeah,
and that was
he said
important.
I have to be director. I'll sell it to you for $1,
Right,
but I have to direct it.
right.
And so he sold it to a producer. She got it done, and then he directed it, and the rest is history. But he doesn't have the rights to any of it. It was his idea, his story. But and he obviously got paid out at the time. But then again, so there's two ways to look at this. On the one hand, this launched his career, like you said, because he went from here to Aliens, The Abyss,
Yeah,
I mean, he made the
exactly.
Titanic, on and on. He made the
If you go
most.
and look at the top 5 movies of
Yeah,
all
they're
time,
like four of them are his.
two of them
Oh,
are
two of them are
his,
his. Okay,
two
yeah.
of them are his, and neither of them is Terminator.
Yes, exactly. So
So
I
I
mean,
mean,
he's doing well. Yes,
this launched a career which is
he's doing
probably
well.
worth what he lost
But
in selling Terminator.
it's kind of like Sylvester Stallone. He doesn't own
Mhm.
the rights to Rocky. Sylvester
Yeah,
Stallone wrote Rocky, and he sold it, and he sold Rocky like he was desperate. There's it's a
yeah,
famous Hollywood lore where he had no money, and he was trying to find some work. He had written Rocky, written the script, and he sold it for $100,000 to somebody, and like he finally had some money, and he was looking at the check. And he called up the guy the next day. He's like, "I can't do this. I'm taking it back. Give me back the script. I'll give you back the money. I don't want it."
uh-huh.
And he finally, he said, "I have to start it. I have to be Rocky." But the same thing, like so, he did get that, just like Cameron got director. Sylvester Stallone got the starring role, so he was Rocky, but he didn't get credit. He didn't own it. No, he still sold the rights, just
Oh, he
like
did
Cameron
still
sold the
sell it.
rights.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So every
But it's
Rocky
worth
movie, you
it.
think,
It's worth it if that's your entryway to Hollywood and your whole
I know,
career.
but and you
Totally
think
worth
about
it.
like Rambo, he owns Rambo and
Right.
Expendables and just on and on and on. So,
Oh, just a million
um,
things. A million
yeah,
things.
so
You
it
could just
kind of
keep.
launches
Yeah.
you. But that was my biggest surprise. I saw that and I was like, it's kind of like taking an internship, like an unpaid internship at
Right.
some point in your life.
It's very
It's
much like
like
that. It's a
I
ripoff,
am
but it could be the right move.
you're doing it for other reasons, right? You're doing it for the chance. It's like rolling the dice,
I want to
maybe
get
it'll
up
pay
on my
off.
political soapbox here for like one
Okay.
second.
Okay.
I don't think that companies should be able to hire interns unpaid. I think interns are doing jobs all over this country that could be done by middle class people otherwise. All the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that goes on in an office that are done by interns
Mm-hmm.
for free.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because like all the big companies that are headquartered in a place like New York, and there's all
Mm-hmm.
these kids coming here working for free, and they can only afford to live here because their parents pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not right. That's not right. That's just
Right.
skewing the economy. You're getting work for free. I think they should just apply at least minimum wage laws to that. But
Totally
anyway,
agree. No, I totally agree because I work in I hope you keep this because I work at a university and
mhm.
my students oftentimes depend on internships so that they can get a real job once they get out.
Right.
And oh man, it kills me when companies are like, yeah, we'll hire you, but you have to work for free.
Right.
And
Wrong.
students are kind of like,
Wrong.
yeah, that's terrible. No,
No.
like, no, don't do that. They're not
No.
slaves. This
No.
isn't the 14th century. They will, you can pay them at least what anybody else would get paid doing that stuff.
I mean, at the very least, minimum wage, which is the law,
or whatever. Yeah.
There should not be an exemption for that. Anyway,
totally
but
agree. Okay.
and neither of us is coming from the part of the political spectrum where you'd think we'd be saying that. So I think people could listen to us and realize that we're very sincere in what we're saying here. So my biggest surprise about this film was, like I said, I realized I hadn't seen it since like 1988, and I loved it. I loved it when I saw it. Like I got into Arnold Schwarzenegger and all these cool sci-fi movies, and I was the age where you're learning a lot of cool stuff, at 11 or 12. But I got really into this one, and I saw T2, and it was just like my favorite movie ever. I mean, I watched it so many times, and I went back and watched this one, and I realized there's very little original material in Terminator 2. So much of Terminator 2 is just
true.
bits from this film being respun almost, as an homage to the original. It's not meant to just, but I thought of it as being this brilliant sequel. And in some ways, it still is. It's a great sequel in some ways. But in other ways, it's just rerunning a lot of the stuff from this. And there's really not a lot of original material. And
that's
that
a really good
surprised
point.
me.
Yeah,
really
that's a really good point. It takes writing that first one. Right? I mean, you set the foundation for it. It's a lot easier to do everything after that, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point.
I have seen, like I said, I've seen Terminator 2 like 100 times. I know the beats of that movie. I know everything about what happens in the entire film from start to finish. And half of the scenes in Terminator 1 are rehashed in Terminator 2. I mean, to the point of there's punches that are thrown and the way people look at other people and lines and just everything about it is just taken out of Terminator 1 and used again in Terminator 2, to the point where I lost a lot of respect for a movie that I've loved my entire life from watching this.
That's funny. Did Cameron direct
a lot of respect
T2?
for this one? Yeah, Cameron did Terminator 2, definitely.
Okay.
But he's pretty much just like he didn't do 3.
Grab. Yeah, cash grab.
I don't know if it's like I said, there's things to be respected in T2. It's a cool movie, but it's almost like a remake of this one in a lot of ways. It's like, I got the money, I can do the movie that I meant to do.
That I wanted to make. Yeah, like that's a good point.
So it's not like entirely a cash grab. It really is better in a lot of ways, but it's only because it does better a lot of the things that are from it. But that was my biggest surprise, is just how much T2 owes to this one. I mean, to the point of not really having as much respect as I once had for that movie. But,
there you go. Changing lives.
And it's one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So that's saying something. That's a big change in how I look at it. So I'm voting. I mean, I think this is great. I think this movie started a bunch of important careers. I think this movie has terrific science fiction interpretive value. I think it led to better films later that were made by James Cameron. So I'm definitely voting, but I'll leave it up to you.
Oh, you have to leave it up to me. Those are the rules.
I have to. I know, but this is a strong. If my vote could be worth 1.4 votes, it would be worth 1.4 votes here. So I'm just saying,
I think this has 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is that right?
Mistaken. I believe so.
Even with the scene where he cuts his eye out and how bad the model looks, that's really bad.
Tomatoes. Hold on. Let me make sure.
I would have thought some kid out there would ding him a couple. One of those people that complains that the trees are impersonal at a national park.
This is 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
which doesn't happen that often.
Hang on. The NYPD is going past my window.
So 86% from the
That's
audience,
what he's doing.
but 100,
All right, anyway, he's gone now. Okay.
100% from the critics. I will absolutely toast.
Oh yeah, the critics. Okay,
this.
but there's always a couple of idiots in the audience that are like, oh,
yeah,
I think they should have. Britney Spears should have been in this movie.
What does Arnold Schwarzenegger know about action movies or something stupid, right? So, no, I will definitely toast this.
Okay.
This is definitely classic. I think for all the reasons you said, and especially, and you just kind of like glossed over launching careers. I mean, Linda Hamilton, and
no, it's huge.
This was Schwarzenegger, because Schwarzenegger was working on Conan the Destroyer, which nobody remembers or has seen prior to this.
Right.
And it's because of this movie he goes on to make all of the other, movies that he makes, like Cobra. No, he didn't make Cobra, but Predator and all the Running Man, like you said. He becomes a leading man because of this. Michael Biehn, this is his first big role.
He's like the biggest star in Hollywood. In about 1990, I think he's the biggest star in the world.
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's huge.
At about that time, like around the time he was in True Lies, I think he was the biggest star that there was.
And then he marries a Kennedy. He marries a Kennedy.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's true. Yeah.
And then he cheats on her with the cleaning woman, but we won't talk about that.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, that's weird. So yeah, this is definitely, I'll toast it, man.
Okay.
Good pick.
All right.
Good job.
I think that's fair. All right. So we are entering this into, you know what? We gotta pick something that's on the fence one of these days, because there's no drama here. We need some drama for the listeners to know whether we're gonna actually, because these things are great. These are great movies.
So I have a free choice coming up then?
You have free choice coming up, yes.
All exactly. Right. Okay. So I'll pick something that might be a little more of a teeter-totter than this one. Okay.
Yeah. I think that'll be wise. Let's keep it. Let's keep some mystery in this.
All right. Hey, before we go, I'm just going to plug my book. My book now, it's called Ted Mack and America's First Black-Owned Brewery: The Rise and Fall of People's Beer, is available now. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you find finer books online. It's a good book. It's got some great ratings or reviews so far. I encourage you to go out. If you're into beer history or just history, it's worth the read. So,
what time period are we talking about?
And find
this book.
1970 to 1976, thereabouts.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So about the Jaws, Rocky.
Time
period. Okay.
Yeah. About that. That's right.
It goes from Godfather 1 up to Jaws, up to Rocky.
For Toasting Classics, I am Clint Lanier.
Okay. And I'm Dave McArthur.
And we will talk to you next time when I figure out something more on the fence. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for episode 75 of Toasting the Classics. For those playing along at home, stay tuned to find out what we'll be drinking when we polka to the hits of Weird Al Yankovic. If you'd like to get in touch, please send us an email at toastingtheclassics@gmail.com. Send us show ideas, comments, complaints, and let us know whether you would sell your soul for $1 if it meant you could have James Cameron's career. Check out my blog at theattractivenuisance.com and follow us on Twitter at @ractivenuisance. Our music was written by Michelle McArthur. See you next time on Toasting the Classics.